sorrow, sunshine, storms, and rainbows. This is a story of family love. Thomas Jessen Sr. was the youngest child of Ingeborg Jessen Bison. Ingeborg had 6 children. Viewing from left to right is Tom, Mary, Marion, Chris, Peter, and standing by our grandmother Bison is Edward. She was born Ingeborg Hoyer, March 21st, 1861 in Denmark. She married Nis Jessen. We don't know when she came to the United States, but we do know that all of her children were born here. Our dad, Tom, was approximately 2 years old when his dad, Nis, died in a stable fire trying to save thoroughbred horses. Having to support her children with income from being a midwife and professional ironer, the children were cared for during the day by Mary. Shortly after Nis's death, Daddy had surgery for water on the knee, and a slip of the surgeon's knife left him crippled for life. Also, his knee was damaged during a fall from his carriage at a young age. We understand that he took his first steps without help or braces at the age of 18. This is how we remember our grandmother Bison when she lived her last years with Mom and Dad. She died February the 12th, 1946. Hilda Anna Marie Hansen was the youngest daughter of Marie and Andrew Hansen. Marie Christina Hansen was born in Rutkenbing, Largeland, Denmark, August 29th, 1865. Andrew Knudsen was born in Odense, Denmark, May the 21st, 1867. Shown here is Grammy and Grampy with their children, left to right, Dewey, Morris, Hilda, and Robert. The Hansen family dream and plan was to come to America. Marie's brother was the first to come. It was years before Marie could follow him because it was a Danish custom that young children between 6 and 7 years of age be given to another family to work. Later she met Grandpa and they fell in love. Finally, she had the opportunity to go to America to join her brother in Cleveland, Ohio. Although Grandpa was required by law to serve in the military service for 2 years, he didn't because he did not want to serve under the German occupational forces. He then left and followed his love to America. He arrived in New York approximately 1888. There Grandma met him and they were married. And in order to prevent the possibility of being returned to Denmark, he took her name of Hansen instead of Knudsen. Their first son, Morris, was born in New York. Then they went to Pittsburgh to live, where Grandpa worked in an iron shop. They had another son, Robert, and Dewey was born later. In December 1893, they came to Orlando. Grandpa worked for Crossley in a shoe shop on Church Street. During the Spanish-American War, he served under Teddy Roosevelt as a mule driver, which is also known as a mule skinner, and harness maker in Cuba. A freeze and depression hit Florida in February 1894. They lost everything and moved to Cleveland. Grandma opened a confectionery shop and Grandpa had a shoe shop next door. They began hearing stories of Florida and how everything was growing and good again. Grandpa said he would rather starve to death than freeze to death, so they returned to Florida in 1904. They finished the frame home where Hilda Marie was born in 1905. This is the property where Jones High School is today. And in the same year, Grandpa started his own shoe shop in the Matthews Livery Stable on the corner of Orange Avenue and Church Street. In 1906, he moved the shop to Pine Street, where he stayed active in the business until he retired in 1919. His sons Robert and Dewey continued the business for many years. This is the way we remember our Grandma and Grandpa Hanson. This picture was taken on their 50th wedding anniversary. And after 57 years of marriage, Grandma died on October the 6th, 1947. Grandpa died after living with Mom and Dad for approximately 1 year on April the 27th, 1950. Our mother wrote journals of happenings in her life, just as her mother did. She wrote for us her memories of growing up.
I was born December the 10th, 1905. I was the youngest child. I spent my childhood at the farm where I was born and was married from this home. I attended Orlando schools, first and second grade at the school located at Jessen in South Orange, later being used as City Hall until the new structure was built. Third and fourth grades were attended at Magnolia, a new school. My mother had the idea for a horse-driven school bus for the few children of our neighbors, each family taking turns driving the school wagon. How the wagon was purchased, I don't know, but it was pulled by one horse. It had, of course, the driver's seat, plus wooden boards on each side for seats. Entry was from the back only. In case of rain, there were roll-up and down waterproof canvas. The fifth grade was attended at West Central, a new school. At this school, I had a bicycle to ride, for which I was teased so much, for so few girls rode them then. At the age of 5 and a half, me, my brother Dewey, Mama, and Papa took a trip to Denmark. We traveled to Jacksonville by train and stayed with the Wilkies, close friends of the family. In fact, their daughter Selma was a fine seamstress and made beautiful clothes and hats. When we arrived, she had made me many lovely things and also a new hat. She continued to send me a new hat quite frequently until I became married. The last one she sent was in 1923 when we were in North Carolina. I think there's a picture of me in this hat. I remained on in school 5, 6, 7, and 8th grade, which at that time, the 9th grade, was the beginning of high school. I had no special talents, although I did well in sewing, or domestic science as it was known. Each girl was to make her own graduation dress, which was a midi blouse with sailor collar and skirt, both all white, with white soutache braid as trim. The girl having the most perfect sewed garment was first winner. I do not remember what that was, even if a prize was won or just the honor, but I do remember I was so disappointed that mine was second best, because I had not made the emblems on each corner of the blouse pocket perfect. Then there was only first mention and no second. During that year, we had made a notebook with all the things that we were taught, each page having a small sample. Years later, after I was married, my teacher came to my home and asked to borrow this book to show her students. She was still teaching. I was so very proud. And more so when she returned it with a nice note. Attended 9th grade or 1st grade of high school back at the school I had attended 1st and 2nd grades, which was in Orlando's only high school. I never got along good. The subjects, algebra, ancient history, and shorthand were so hard for me. Other subjects were fine. But I struggled along that year and the next, but then I talked my parents into letting me quit. I wanted to go to work in a store, especially the 5 and 10 cent store on the corner of Pine and Orange Avenue. My friend Daisy Johnson was working there, and I thought it was wonderful. But of course my family would not hear of their daughter working outside the home. I worked hard at home, helping in all ways except milking the cows. I was a little frightened of the cows and was never made to milk them. I loved horses and helped take care of them. Papa had 2 on the farm then, and several milk cows and calves. I rode one named Buckskin bareback until one day I rode him under Mama's clothesline and was of course knocked off the horse. I was not hurt but shook up and frightened. I never rode again. Mama and Papa bought a used piano, and I started taking music lessons from Mrs. Stevenson, an elderly lady who had quite a large group of students. Among them, Manly Duckworth and Celia Solomon, who both made music their life work. But I never had talent and plugged away on slower music and hymns, which Mama and Papa enjoyed so much hearing. I took lessons every Saturday afternoon. I was then driving Papa Studebaker touring car and was working at the shoe shop along with our brother Robert and Papa. He would come home for lunch, we called it dinner in those years, and take me to Mrs. Stevenson's home on Delaney Street on the lake across from where Orange Memorial Hospital is now. After my lesson, I would walk back to the shoe shop. Usually, Mama would have ridden back into town to shop. After my lesson, I would join her. Then there was a large grocery store next door to Papa's shop, run by Mr. Mann. Also back of the shoe shop, the lot where the old post office stands, was a large vacant lot. It was fenced in and had Shetland ponies. How I begged to have a pony, but I never did. We entered the war, and my brother Dewey enlisted in the Navy. Was never sent overseas, but the family was so worried and afraid that he would be. When he was home again, he bought his first car and took a trip to Cleveland to visit a family named Summer, a leather dealer the family knew, and visited Niagara Falls. He brought back a shell clock for me. I still have it. I thought it so.
These are some of the memories our mother had of growing up. Writings was our dad's policy of life. This policy was taken from Isaiah 43, 18 and 19. Cease to dwell on days gone by and to brood over past history. Here and now I will do a new thing.
Tom did not speak much of the past and never dwelled on it. He spoke some of his boyhood, which was hard and one filled with much suffering. He loved his mother very much and felt he owed her so much, nursing and caring alone for him and his 5 brothers and sisters. She was widowed when Tom was an infant.
This concludes this portion of our mother's writings. Before Mom met Dad, he was a chauffeur in New York for a politician. He met a girl, Carrie Moore, who was dying of TB. Her family was not taking care of her. He related to her suffering, so he married her in 1919. They came to Florida for her health, hoping for the best, but she died 4 months later. The Hansons and Bisons were good friends. Being Danish, they went to the same socials and played cards. This is how Mom and Dad met and how the courtship began in 1921.
Strange dear, but true dear, when I'm close to you, dear, the stars fill the sky.
Mother and Daddy also wrote love letters to each other. Some were mailed, and some were put in the hollow of the large oak tree on the property between Grandma's and Uncle Robert's house.
Dear Tom, I received your letter today and I was rather surprised, but then I like surprises, especially those kind. I wanted to tell you the latest news. When I was uptown today, guess what I saw? A Ford with a big 12-quart bucket tied to the radiator. Wonder what that was anyway. It was also minus 3 or 4 of the fenders, and the top was fairly good, with the exception of the back curtain, which was out. It was decorated in red. Must have come from Iowa, don't you think? I have just lots of news for you, and I hope I might see you soon. You know, as I can't keep news very long, I trust you are well.
Dear sweetheart, well, this is another one of those blue days for me. I came home this noon as usual to see if there was any mail from you, but sorry to say there wasn't, and believe me, my chin did drop, and it isn't back in proper shape yet. For I thought you would at least answer my letters, but maybe I am writing too often to you. For this is the 12th letter I have wrote to you, and 1 telegram, and I've up to date only received 4 letters, 1 note, and 1 folder from you. So at that rate, I have to write twice to get to you to answer once. You remember you told me that I could tell how much you cared for me by the number of letters I would receive from you. Well, then you also said that I couldn't care more for you than you did for me. But at that rate of going, I think twice as much of you as you do of me. And even if you only think of me half as much as I do of you, you still think a lot of me. For my love for you is beyond all words. In 1923, Daddy and Mama selected a home at 701 Arlington Avenue, Orlando, Florida. Daddy purchased it and they moved in after their wedding. Daddy owned his own business, Florida Battery Company, located on Central Avenue. He moved his business from Central Avenue to his new building at 320 through 314 West Pine. This is the way it looked when he moved in. This is the way the shop looked on Pine Street when our dad purchased the property next door to put in his used car lot. This is the way the car lot looked next to the building on the corner of Huey and Pine. The building was unique in 2 ways. It had a very unusual service area and a very unusual area in the front to show cars. Back in the service area, as you can see, he had skylights installed so that the daylight would come through and the men could work better. The uniqueness in the showroom area was our dad had 2 enormous murals made out of plaster on 2 walls. The wall behind the wicker furniture depicted an airplane and a flying scene in Florida. The mural that was behind the car is a boat out on a lake. This is a better view of the airplane scene of the airplane flying over the Florida landscape. Along with his battery dealerships and many automobile dealerships, our father also sold Jessen outboard motors. He was the authorized dealer. Here is one of his displays in front of the mural inside of the 314 to 320 Pine Street building that he had built. One depicts a bird in the tree in his Florida scene and comes around the corner to the lake scene where you see the motorboat going out across the lake. Shown here is the Austin automobile being displayed in the 314 to 320 Pine Street showroom. This was one of the 9 dealerships our father had. Also included was the Willis, Franklin, Cadillac, Blue Moon, Hupmobile, and also included was a Jessen outboard motor. Our father was the first to use outdoor lighting for nighttime sales. Pictured in front of the used car lot is Franklin Square, which Dad paid to have paved with bricks. This square was 4 lanes wide. The following is a newspaper clipping. Franklin Square is in the limelight this week, and we nominate Thomas Jessen, who operates the Franklin Service Garage, for mayor of Franklin Square. A statue should be erected to his achievement. He paid over $2,500 cash out of his own pocket to pave the square, the shortest, wildest street in the world. Our dad also owned and operated 2 other car lots, one on Orange Avenue next to the Orange Court Hotel, which is right off of Colonial Drive, and one on Main Street in Daytona Beach, Florida. Along with the innovative nighttime sales lighting, he was very much in favor of outdoor advertising. Here you can see some of the many signs he had along the roads advertising his business. They remind you a lot of the Burmack Shave signs. This is one of the ads that is as it would have appeared in one of the local papers, along with 2 pictures of our dad. Dad gave a large Christmas tree to the city to be planted at Lake Eola. He put one in our front yard at the same time. Both of them were decorated at Christmas time. The Depression hit our family very hard. Along with the car manufacturers going into bankruptcy and the banks closing, our father, with his big heart, financed cars on his own to people, many of them well known in the community, who left him holding worthless paper and no money. The story of our heritage continues when Thomas Marinus Jessen marries Hilda Anna Marie Hanson in Orlando, Florida on August the 3rd, 1924. They had 5 children. Alice Bernice, born March the 3rd, 1928. Helen Louise, born April the 14th, 1931. Thelma Marie, born October the 26th, 1932. Thomas Marinus Jr., born April the 12th, 1935. Carolyn Ingeborg, born June the 16th, 1946. We were a happy family. We children did not realize that there was a depression. Finances were never mentioned when we were present. There was always a lot of love. As a family, we visited relatives or they came to our house. Holidays were always important. Simple things kept us entertained for hours. The sandbox, a small rock for hopscotch, and jacks. The swing, marbles, a piece of chalk or crayon, and the jump rope. The tricycle, handmade scooter and skates, cars and trucks made from cheese boxes, dolls, paper dolls, and books. All of these gave us opportunities to use our imagination. A typical day of our childhood began with a hot breakfast and freshly squeezed orange juice. When we were not in school, mornings were spent learning and doing household chores. Dinner was 12 noon. Daddy always came home to eat. Daddy always kissed each of us goodbye before going back to work. He did this also if he went back to work in the evenings. Then we would rest or nap until 3 p.m. During that time, stories were read when we were young. sewing or reading when we were old enough. Then we played until 5. Very seldom did we go to a neighbor's house because they came to ours. Mother always had homemade root beer and cookies. Supper was at 6. Everyone ate together, and after the supper meal, it was time for chores. The chores for the girls were, one was to wash dishes, one dried, and one set and cleared the table, and Tommy took out the garbage. Other chores included selling chickens from our own stock, selling eggs and avocados, feeding and cleaning of the chicken houses, dusting the furniture, and of course the trips to the grocery store and bringing in the bags. We all went to Concord Park School, grades 1 through 6, which was only 1 block away. Education was very important to both Mother and Daddy. All of us graduated from high school. Mother made all of our clothes, including our underwear. Material was from family and friends, Daddy's relatives in New York, and feed sacks from Grandma's. She crocheted, embroidered, sewed, quilted, and made rugs. She tried to teach her children. Some learned, and some did not. Our first family vacation was in 1944. Daddy rented a cottage at Daytona Beach for a month. Music was an important part of our life. Piano, radio, and vocal. In 1939, Dad hitchhiked to Jacksonville to take a civil service exam to instruct auto mechanics to the new recruits preparing for what would be World War II. He and his friend, Clarence Johnson, also from Orlando, was first sent to Sumter, South Carolina, where they lived on the base. They would teach during the day and they would sabotage trucks at night so they would not run. The guys then had to fix them by a certain time. In 1942, he and Clarence were sent to Talladega, Alabama to continue their instructing. This picture depicts some of the instructors. Our dad is noted by the red arrow. It was hard for everyone, especially Mom, to be separated from our dad during this time that he was away. He would send letters and poems. Dear sweetheart, I am sending you these shoes early so that you can see if they will fit you. If they don't, send them back to me and I will get whatever size you need. I think the last pair that I bought for you was 6.5 5A heel and triple A last. I know good and well that you wouldn't buy any for yourself for Easter, and I'm not there to buy them for you. And you will not have time now to return them to me if they don't fit. But you don't try and wear them if they are not right for you, for I can get to any size that you want, that is provided that they will be to fit you and not anyone else. So don't think that you'll be bothering me at all to have them changed to fit you, for it won't be any bother at all. But I did want you to have them for Easter, and I knew that if I waited too long before I sent them to you, if they didn't fit, or you wouldn't have any for Easter. So let me know as soon as you can, one way or the other. I bought myself a new hat today also. The one that I had was awful bad shape, and I couldn't get it cleaned. It was another gray one. However, I didn't get it at the dime store, for they don't have them there like they did in Orlando. But you remember, I tried to get one when I was down there, but they didn't have any more at that time. I hope that you are all well, as this note leaves me feeling fine as usual. But somehow I feel rather lonesome, for it is almost 2 months now since I was home. And believe me, that makes it seem a long time to one that is away from home. Well, I must close for now and get the shoes packed so that I can send them tomorrow morning. Good night, sweetheart, and pleasant dreams. I remain as ever, forever, your loving husband, Tom. When first we started as a family of two, for nearly 19 years our family grew to be a family of 4 and 2. How do you do? How do you do? T.M.J. This is a poem he sent for their 19th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. 19 years of married bliss, a big hug, a smile, and a great big kiss. After 19 years, you are just the same, the sweeter and dearest girl I still proclaim. The courage you had to take my name, to venture into the future through sunshine and rain. For at times the horizon looked very dark, but your sweet disposition made me happy as a lark. The sunshine you planted in our home has always proved, as far as I have known, so to you, sweetheart, I say, I love you, T.M.J. Enclosed is a little remembrance on this happy day. I wish I could deliver it personally with lots of love, Tom. He also sent boxes of candy, games, and clothes he bought from the PX. Dad returned home in 1943. He went to work at Pine Castle Air Force Base, which later became McCoy Air Force Base and then Orlando International Airport, as a purchasing agent. Carolyn was born on Father's Day in 1946. And now our family was complete. Alice married John Marley September the 14th, 1947. They exchanged their vows in the chapel at the First Methodist Church downtown. John Branscombe was the minister. After the wedding, Alice and John moved to Pennsylvania. In 1948, the family went to the mountains in North Carolina for a month's vacation with Grandpa Hanson. This was the first trip out of Florida for us children. We had a great trip with many, many memories. Mom and Dad celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary in 1949. They took a car trip up to the Blue Ridge Parkway to New York and Niagara Falls. Thelma married W.L. Broadway on August 6, 1950 at Concord Park Methodist Church. Theirs was one of the first weddings in the new church. Reverend Blackburn was the minister. Helen married Frank Cooper on October the 14th, 1953 at Concord Park Methodist. Their reception was held at our house. Dad went to work for Baby Juice Fruit Company for approximately 2 years as a bookkeeper. He also overlooked their labor crews in their camp. In July 1954, he had his first heart attack. The following year, he went to work for Indian Lake Fruit Company as a bookkeeper for W.L. and Thelma. He had his second and fatal heart attack on August the 2nd, the last day of the fruit season. This was also the day before their 31st wedding anniversary. When Dad died, Mom found out at the age of 49 she had no credit. In fact, she had never even written a check, and now was the in-charge person with Thomas and Carolyn still at home. I think that it wasn't just the monetary necessity that she applied to work in the lunchroom at Concord Park School, where Carolyn was a student. This would mean that she could be home when Carolyn was, and also now she could prove to herself and others that she could work outside the home. When Carolyn graduated to Evans School, Mother transferred to the same school as assistant lunchroom dietitian. She had again proved herself. Thomas married Charlotte Georgine Davidson on September the 6th, 1958 at Concord Park Methodist Church. Reverend Robinson was the minister. In 1965, Mom and Carolyn took a trip out west to California, which lasted 6 weeks. Carolyn married Edward Nolan Brooks on August the 8th, 1970 at Concord Park Methodist Church. Reverend Rodney Johnson was Her home and family were very important to her. It started when she was a very young girl. Mother said she was one of the few who had ever seen the end of a rainbow.
I was a young girl, and one day a terrible electrical storm hit. Papa had come back to the house to be with Mama and me because he knew we would be frightened. When the storm was over, the three of us went out on the front porch. There we saw a beautiful rainbow, and the end of it was near the oak tree. And I asked Mama, "Where's the pot of gold?" And she said, "Right here, our home and our land."
Mother's family was very important. 5 children, 13 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. She held her first great-great-grandchild just 2 weeks prior to her own untimely death. She loved and gave of herself to each and every one of them, and recorded each new birth on the family quilt. Like other cities, her neighborhood deteriorated and fell to crime. She lived alone. We begged her to move away, even after break-ins and violence. Her answer was always, "No, I will not give in to them." I came to this home as a bride, and I will stay here till I die. On September the 15th, 1992, at the age of 86, Mother died during a break-in to her home. Her death affected many, many people. Even the city began to help restore the neighborhood. This was too late for her, but now hopefully other families can make their own memories and rainbows. The following is a partial quote from a local newspaper editorial page. The front page of a recent Orlando Sentinel presented perfectly the dilemma confronting present-day Orlando: how to preserve the best of the past and to progress into the future. On one hand, a story describes Hilda Jessen, a heroine who personified the very best of old Orlando, loving deeply her native city, its land, its people. She always knew instinctively that it was the end of her rainbow, the Garden of Eden. She struggled to resist the ugly urbanization that is overwhelming old Orlando. Refusing to leave her garden, she lost her life at the end of the rainbow. While there is still time, let us all who love the city beautiful follow the lead of Hilda Jessen to preserve what is left of this specially unique, beautiful place. Let us all root for the Hilda Jessens. The following are the pictures our mother had on her dresser that she looked at and prayed over each night before she went to sleep.
We are still
I'm Alice, the firstborn. As I look back upon my life, I know how blessed it has been. Parents who taught respect, gave and showed love for family, God, friends, and nature. Then later in life, a loving, devoted husband and 3 wonderful children. There are so many things I remember about growing up. Never being afraid, walking everywhere, doors were not locked, and windows were left open. Butterflies, fireflies, and the wildflowers that we would pick for Mama. Playing with paper dolls on the front porch, or cars with Thomas under the oak tree. Sharing secrets with Helen and Thelma. Mother reading Anne of Green Gables to us when we had the measles. Daddy trying his very best to help me with the multiplication tables. I have so many great memories, I could go on and on. But there are 2 things I'd like to share. When I was going to apply for my first job, Daddy told me, when you work for someone, you give 110% of yourself, and you will do just fine. I did this all through my career. Later, when I had responsibilities with my own family, Mother told me, God will never give you a cross too heavy to carry. I have remembered this many, many times. John and I were married for 44 and a half years. We had 3 children, Larry Michael, Judy Ann, Patrick Thomas. Larry married Anna Morrow. They have 2 boys, Michael and Robert. Judy married Bill Mays, and they had 2 children, Philip and Shannon. Shannon married Scott Hobbs, and they have 1 child, Laurie Ann. Judy divorced Bill and later married Michael Sultan. Hopefully John and I gave our children happy memories, the strength to be themselves, the courage to stand up for what they believe in, and love for all. If so, they will have their rainbow.
I am Helen Louise Jessen Cooper, the 2nd child of Thomas and Hilda Jessen. I was born at 701 Arlington Avenue, Orlando, Florida, April 14, 1931. I married Ralph Franklin Cooper Jr. October 14, 1953. He passed away April 22, 1989. We had 3 children. Janie Marie Cooper Johnson, who married Michael Lee Johnson, Ralph Franklin Cooper III, and Robert Thomas Cooper. My parents, through their own individual strong characteristics and love for each other, showed us family love, respect for others, determination, and how to be your own self in harmony with others. My life with my family was very happy and always blessed with a lot of rainbows.
It was the year 1932, the depth of the Great Depression. My father had the dealership for Franklin Motor Company. The company had fallen behind on a $5 million loan, so the bankers appointed their own manager, Edwin McEwen, and under his direction, this is the model unveiled in 1932. Quote, the Club Ron has an air-cooled engine, 100 fewer parts than standard water-cooled engines, a feature that reduces maintenance. Because it uses no water, the car could be driven all day at high speeds without overheating and would never freeze or leak, unquote. The irony of this story is this Franklin, known as a banker's car, intended to save the Franklin Company, led to its demise. Priced at $3,000, few people could afford them, and only 200 were sold. It was in October, on the 26th day, I chose my mother and father, a wonderful pair of parents. My father, a strict man who believed respect earned true love, never complained of his handicap. He would sit patiently in his car in the hot sun so we could swim in a local lake or at the beach. When we were sick, he was our doctor. His heart was pure gold. I respected him, and he had my love. My mother, a beautiful lady with a giving heart, always doing for the family, yet teaching us to be independent and applauding us when we did well. She put the sunshine in our lives, and I loved her very much. My parents named me Thelma Marie. I was and am proud of the name Marie. It was my grandmother Hanson's name, the grandmother who taught me the love of the ocean, making images out of clouds, and a love for pretty dishes and knickknacks. This is my graduation picture. I was not the easiest child for my parents to raise. I was a captain of the winning debate team in the 8th grade. I had lots of practice using this art on my family. I have a dimple in my chin, the devil within, they would say, and always bangs with a nursery rhyme. There was a little girl with a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. When she was bad, she was hard. The love you see in my eyes are mostly for W.L. Broadway. I met W.L. in 1946 at an NYF outing at Rock Springs. He stole a kiss and my heart. He still has it. Our song was Near You, which ends, make my life worthwhile by telling me that I'll spend the rest of my days near you. We made that come true August 6, 1950. He had a job at Baby Juice for 9 months of the year at $35 a week. He worked the other 3 months as a construction helper. He paid the medical cost of having children by working at Florida Fashions on the night shift. His father borrowed $3,000 and put W.L. in charge of an empty packing house in Ocoee in 1952. He made money on this, and his daddy joined him in a bigger packing house in 1953. They called their company Indian Lake Fruit Company Incorporated. The irony of this story is the freeze of 1981, which wiped away half of our assets, was followed by the deep freeze of 1982, which caused its demise. The rainbow of love God has blessed W.L. and I with are our children. Dennis Patrick Broadway, born September 18, 1951. David James Broadway, born July 6, 1953. Dawn Marie Broadway Harrison, born February the 27th, 1958. Christina Broadway, born January the 11th, 1969. Each has their own aura, which complements each other. And like God's rainbow, they are always near us with their promise of love, and especially after the storms of life. This aura of love is apparent to all around us. W.L. and my treasures, or a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, is, in the order they were born, Todd, Corey, Troy, Dana, Whitney, Kristen, and Little John, each with their own auras, making more rainbows of love. truly, God, how great thou art.
My name is Thomas Marinus Jessen Jr. I was the fourth born of Thomas and Hilda Jessen. I married Charlotte Davidson September the 6th, 1958. We had two children, Sean Marie, born October the 1st, 1962, and Eric Timothy, born January the 25th, 1964. Sean married Joe McGahee. They have one child, Victoria Marie. Notice how the name Marie carries down through many generations. Eric married Melissa. Some of my early childhood recollections are, I knew that we didn't have a lot of money, but I did know that there was a lot of love in this family. This love carried all the way through Mom and Dad's life. I remember Mom asking me the day after my dad died to continue giving her a hug and a kiss when we saw each other, so that love would continue for her forever. A lesson I learned while growing up was you had to work hard to achieve what you wanted in life. Some things I enjoyed while growing up. The first truck was made by me and my dad from cheese boxes. Buying and putting puzzles together. Sitting around a radio at rest time with my sisters making braided rugs. Spending time upstairs with family, sanding a hardwood floor so the girls could have a beautiful bedroom. We all had chores. Mine was to feed and water the chickens, do the yard work, and take out the garbage. This is why I learned how to whistle, because I was very afraid of the dark. My first bike had to be sanded and painted before I could even ride it. Even though things were hard, we spent much quality time together with our family. But what I would really like to leave with you is a thought which comes from a Broadway show, Fiddler on the Roof. Tradition. We, as you can see from this video, have a great tradition. I hope that you will follow us in this live stream and will be proud and will pass on to even greater tradition. Now may the rainbow of love, faith, and hope be passed.
I'm Carolyn. I became part of the family 12 years after Tommy was born, making me the youngest. In many ways, I was raised much like an only child, except I had the added benefit of having, at many times, 6 parents. It was strange to become an aunt at 3 years of age, and having most of my nieces and nephews so near my age was very different than most of my friends. My sisters and brother have been very powerful models for me throughout my life. Alice showed me how one could have both a career and a family. And also, she showed me the importance of the balance between memories and dreams. Helen, who always brought me back a golden book whenever she went to work or to the store, not only fanned my love of reading, but also showed me the joy that one receives from sharing and giving. Thelma showed me the importance of fun and laughter. I'll never forget those drives to the beach and her singing with the radio and without. And Tommy, after Daddy died, became the father figure that my 8-year-old mind and soul so desperately needed. He has also shown me through the years the importance and power of a strong spiritual belief. My mother was the most influential person in my life. After Daddy died, I saw her build her career, typing recipes on the old typewriter at the dining room table late into the evening, taking food left from the cafeteria to the Orlando Union Rescue Mission. Yet she always had time for me and for her family. I remember the summers when she dedicated a week for each grandchild. In fact, she invited 2 at a time from different families so they would get to know each other. Most of her grandchildren called her Mimi, and they looked forward to their week's vacation. And a vacation it was. Mickey Mouse pancakes, the John Long pool in Lake Fairview, with her sitting on the bleachers under her umbrella watching us swim every afternoon, ice cream sodas, and of course, card games and board games. I remember always playing school growing up. The old chicken coop no longer housed chickens, so it made the perfect schoolhouse. Mom saw how much I loved working with children and young people, and she encouraged me to pursue my dream of becoming a teacher. With her support and the support of my sisters and brother, I pursued my dream. When I graduated from the University of South Florida, my sorority sister and dear friend Donna and I decided to work our way around the world. We ran out of money in New Jersey. In reality, it was our first stop. That's where I met the love of my life, Ed Brooks. It was ironic that Ed had been planning to move to Florida and that his apartment was in Perth Amboy, where Daddy was born. 2 years after we were married, our beautiful daughter, Donna Marie, was born. Being entrusted with her life was the greatest gift we have ever known. We had many happy years, and then suddenly, just a few months after our 20th wedding anniversary, Ed died of an inoperable brain tumor, and our lives changed forever. As I look back over the years and ahead to the coming years, I'm reminded of truly how important family is. Family, like a quilt, all of us stitched together with love, laughter, tears, memories, and dreams. The family quilt that Mom started in 1924 continues to grow with each new addition to our family, and the legacy of faith, love, and hope continue with you.